So hey, have a seat. We gotta talk about why you're not going to win. You know, a lot of times I've looked and I've analyzed and I've seen the things that you've been doing. And a lot of times you've been really negative on yourself. A lot of times, you know, you say no before you even get started. And the biggest thing I find is that's going to help you is to stop identifying yourself as the person that's not going to do it. And if you just actually try doing that for a while, that might actually help you quite a bit. You know, because a lot of times I feel, even myself, right? I felt like I could never be that particular person, right? And when I was younger, I used to always be overweight. So I used to always identify as I could never be that person that was in shape. I could never be that person that was an athlete, especially because you have that experience, right? You have that experience in which you actually try. But your effort, right? It may be the first time you're doing it, so the effort that you're putting in, you think you're trying because it's more than your standard effort, right? And so a lot of times you find that when you're doing this and you're not getting results, that it is frustrating. And this is why we identify as that person that could never make it, right? Because we feel like we were always that person. Like, we feel sometimes that we're set in stone, right? That we can't shake any of this stuff out. And we'll always identify as that person. And it takes us to understand that we will get fed up. We need to stop identifying as whatever that person is. And a lot of times we use that identification as a reason to why we stay where we are. And maybe it's the way we were born and raised. Maybe it's the way we're taught, right? Maybe it's beliefs that we have that don't allow us to do things that are outside of what we normally do. But if we can, you know, set that bar higher, right? Ultimately, if you can set that bar to a point to where you're not just scraping by, you're not identifying as something and then essentially trying to hit that par, right? Because that's essentially what happens. So if you stop identifying as that person and identify yourself as a higher, you know, a higher self, right? What would that higher self do? Would the higher self, you know, push themselves more? Would the higher self perhaps eat a little healthier? Would that higher self perhaps do more than just come home and sit down and watch TV for all day, for the rest of the day, right? Now I understand, you know, you work all day and all these other different things are going on, but what do you really want, right? Do you just want to be that person that just gets by? Do you want to be that person that, you know, has more than, you know, what can cover the bills, right? More than whatever it is that you want in life. Don't put limitations on yourself. Everything that you talk to yourself, all the self-talk that you've been talking to yourself, you know, you talk yourself out of a lot of stuff. If you just go through with it, right? When that thought pops in your head, instead of listening to that other voice about why it's not going to work, just start doing it. You know, a lot of times it's not always easy, right? A lot of times that voice can be really loud in there, and that voice does not want you to do whatever it is that it is, right? Maybe the day was long, maybe nothing's worked out up to this point. Maybe perhaps you woke up late and then that just kind of ruined the rest of your day, and by God, you're just gonna chalk it up as a loss. And the thing is you can still execute on that thing, right? And as bad as the day has been up to this point, you can make it better by executing this one little thing. And I find a lot of times if you can only make the small changes, right? You don't need to make these big, ginormous changes that, you know, are gonna make everything seem so overwhelming, because that is not at all what you need to do. It's just making the everyday changes slowly and consistently, right? Make those little tweaks every single day. Just be consistent about it. And then that person that you identified as before, you know, you'll have this new identity that, no, that's not who I am anymore. I'm actually executing on these things and I've been doing it consistently. And now this is who I am, right? So essentially, don't lower your bar. I think that's got to be like one of the worst pieces of advice I've ever heard, right? Is the fact that you need to set your bar low enough, right? So you don't get worried about if you don't achieve that, right? You want to set it low so you can get that low hanging fruit, when in fact, there's going to be some goals you have that might be low hanging, but ultimately, that bar is high, right? And you should aim as high as you can go, and then live up to that, right? Live up to those beliefs, live up to that standard, and you realize that you push yourself more than you thought you could. That person you were identifying before, you kind of look at back that and you kind of smile and laugh about that. Because now it's like, I am capable of so much more, because I don't identify as that person anymore. I identify as this person. And I've proven to myself over the past couple of days, the past couple of months, and then eventually years, that I am no longer that person. I don't identify as that person. So keep pushing yourself. Don't talk yourself into why you can't do something. And look at the little changes you can make. Don't look at these big changes. A lot of these big changes can seem so intimidating that you'll not want to do it. But you can do it. You have everything you need. You just got to believe in yourself and understand that you are not this person that you think you are. I have seen you. I've noticed that you have more. You are capable of more. And a lot of times that's hard to see, because a lot of times we can't see ourselves from third person, so we don't know. But a lot of times when perhaps you start something, and you stop, people will say, why did you stop? You realize that there's a lot of people actually looking up to you. You just have to look up to yourself and respect yourself and realize that that's not really who you are. Realize that you are capable of all these different things. Don't put limitations on the things you can't do when in fact you can do it all. So that's just something I had in my mind. I hope you can go with this. I hope you understand that you can do whatever it is. That negative self-talk you do all the time, that's got to go. You have to make the choice to do that. You have to understand that you're not going to identify as this person that's going to continue to say no, when in fact, why don't you just try it out for a little bit? And say yes, and realize that you are capable of more. Once you see that, then you'll be a different person. You want to identify as this person you keep telling yourself you are, because that's not the person I see. So I hope this helps you, and you go out there and you start taking care of business.